Hey, this is Big Rob. If you like this content, and I know that you do, please hit like or subscribe. Join the movement, Middle Age Still Single. All right, good afternoon. This is Middle Age Still Single, the podcast. Super excited today. We have Nemo and Nas here as usual. Our brother Mitch had a family situation in Hawaii, that he had to attend to, so he won't be here today. But we have a very, very special guest today. We have author and inspirer of women, Miss Cindy Drummond. How are you, Cindy?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for asking.
No. Listen, we're really, really happy to have you. I came across your story. It was in one of the groups, and I started looking into your story and listening to it. And I was like, I have got to get her on our podcast. So, Cindy, tell us a little bit about the story. It's an amazing story.
Thank you. So, Robert, as you know, my story starts from a pretty dark chapter. And I won't go too much into the details, but basically my life changed overnight when the person that I had been spending the last 6 years with was arrested, hauled out of the house in front of me and my 2 daughters. And so, as you can imagine, shook up. I felt betrayed. I was heartbroken. And so I sought refuge, middle-aged woman seeking refuge in her parents' basement, which was pretty humbling, but I'm very grateful that I had somewhere to go. And then I started thinking about, will I ever be able to trust again? Like, what will this look like? What kind of example am I setting for my daughters? And so I set myself on a lofty challenge, gave myself a few months, obviously, but decided to, if I was going to start trusting again, I knew that I needed to go out on dates, but I set a goal to go on 50 dates in 52 weeks.
That sounds very ambitious. 50. Let me tell you something. Like I've done the online dating thing. If I could go on 3 days in a year, that'd be probably like really good for me. But 50 days, that's ambitious. All right. So I heard in another one of the interviews that maybe 10 might have been an easier number to deal with. But why 50, Cindy? Like why that number?
Good question. And I think that I just thought, okay, so there is 52 weeks in a year. And if I'm going to keep myself on track with this challenge, I should be able to wrangle 1 date a week. So that was kind of the goal. But looking back, it also gave me a lot of time. There was no rush. I had a year to go through this process.
Okay. All right. So what did you do? What did you do as far as like prep for this? Like you're at the gym, like you're lifting weights, you're getting on the treadmill. Like what's your preparation for something like this?
Well, I probably should have went to the gym a bit more. I I wrote a contract with myself. I set some boundaries. I made an agreement with myself and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I didn't put a lot of parameters about where I was going to meet these guys or how I was going to meet these guys. So I did join in some online dating sites. I did register with a few matchmaking agencies. I told friends and family. But you said the word prepare, and I have to tell you that as I so I went on my first date, and as I was driving there, I was not prepared. I started crying, sobbing as I'm driving to this first date because I was terrified. I hadn't been on a date for several years. I was nervous. I wasn't sure I was ready. I knew I wasn't ready. So I wasn't completely prepared, but that didn't stop me from stepping forward and moving forward and trying to go on this challenge.
So what do your
You
daughters?
got something, Nas?
What did?
Oh, go. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go. I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna
No. Go ahead,
say.
Nemo.
Okay, I was gonna say, what do your daughters think about this challenge that you had for yourself?
Well, at the time they were 16 and 13, so that is a very good question because they were very impressionable. I told them that I was going to start dating, but I made sure that I kept them quite separate from the whole process. Throughout the whole challenge, I think my youngest maybe met one person, and that was a mistake. But it just worked out that she ended up coming on a second or third date with me, and that was a disaster. So I kept them away from the process.
Okay, what do you mean that was a? Can we go back a little bit? What do you mean that was a disaster? What exactly happened on that date, if I may ask?
I was set up to go to a movie with someone that I've met him 2 other times before. So I met him at the movie theater. I had to bring my daughter because her plans canceled. And she was typical 13-year-old girl. She didn't want to talk to him. He offered her popcorn. She wouldn't take the popcorn. I didn't hear from him again.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Mhm.
Naj, you got a question, brother?
Yeah, Cindy, you said you didn't want to go into too deep into the emotional aspects of what happened, but in the first chapter, I had to get a drink of water after that first chapter. Like it was such a very emotionally charged, but necessary to tell, right? But what the question I have for you is, you talked about your transition out of that, and you went through something called EFT,
Mm.
and I'd like to know if you can tell us how that affected you and how did it help you to get to where you are now, if it did.
That's a great question. So you're right. What you're referring to is after this incident, an acquaintance that I didn't know very well asked me if I'd be willing to let her try a technique called EFT. And it's basically a tapping, and you can YouTube this, you can look this up, but it is a way where you go through this tapping exercise and to try and release trauma. And it was very helpful. It was fantastic. And so if anybody wants to look into this, I highly recommend it because you can Google it for no charge and find it. But it definitely was just another piece of the puzzle of people offering help and the support from people around me that I think really helped me move forward.
And EFT is emotional freedom technique.
Yes, I believe that's what the
Is that
acronym
what it's
stands
called?
for.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm asking about that because I think a lot of people would benefit from knowing that people get help and they reach out when they're going through certain experiences and are trying to come out on the other side of it okay. And I think that your experience is something that when people read the book, they're gonna focus on that like I did. So I just wanted to get your live assessment of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cindy, so I'm always interested in like dating disasters. All right. Now I got to be honest with you. Like if I knew a woman on the way to coming to see me for the first time was crying in their car with a 13-year-old kid next to her, and then the kid didn't even want any popcorn, like that's a dating disaster for me, right? But like, tell me about like of all of these guys. Tell me about like the one guy that was like the worst. Like so like this, make it a cautionary tale, like what to not do on a date.
Okay. So let me preface by saying most of the dates were okay,
Okay.
but there was one, and there was some red flags because, again, so this I didn't bring people into my life unless I'd been out with them a couple times, and so I had invited this guy to come to games night. Games night was a quarterly event that I was used to doing with 3 other couples. And so I was tired of going for the last few months solo to this games night. So I invited this guy, told him to meet me there. He showed up. He was probably a little tipsy when he showed up. So that was the first red flag. He told me that he offered to bring me a bottle of wine. Well, I only drink white wine. He brought me red wine. That's okay. Second red flag. We are playing a game, and I'm just going to tell this the best way I can. We're playing a game that had questions, and one of the questions was, where will a woman put perfume on her body if she wants it to last the longest? He jumps up.
That's what he asked.
Well, that
This
was
is
the
a
game.
question
That's the
that's
game.
part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the question
Oh,
is, where does a woman put up perfume if she wants it to last the longest? Group of people, my close friends. He jumps up, runs across the room, puts his face in between my chest area, basically motorboats me,
wow.
and says, right here, baby.
Fellas, that is
Yep.
not
What
how
not to
you do it.
on a
That
date.
is
Not
not
to
how you
do.
do it. That's classic right there. That's
Wait a minute,
classic
Joe.
what not to
Wait,
do
was
right
that the
there.
first
Did you-
date or was that the
What about
third
some
date?
good dates? What about some good dates?
Third date?
Third date.
Okay.
That was the
So
third
I'll
date.
say that would be
Wow.
okay
Go
for
ahead,
the
Naj. You got
third
a
date,
question,
won't
brother?
it?
No.
Not for a middle-aged woman.
Not for
No,
any
it's not.
woman.
Not at games night with my
well,
closest friends.
Yeah, I got you.
right. Not on a
See.
date.
No.
That's
Um,
yeah. Okay.
yeah. So what are some of the things that as an attractive middle-aged woman, like what would you say to men that would get them to, like guys always want to know how to at this age, what am I supposed to how do I approach a woman? Because a lot of times you guys think that we're just so bold, but we're most of the time we're not, right? So can you tell us the gentleman that actually won the prize? What did he do?
That's the best question. So I think it's important to know that I probably wasn't the same person when I started the challenge crying to go to the date to the person that I was when I met the guy that won the prize, because I had grown and I had figured out who I was. So maybe the other guys did the right things, but I wasn't ready at that moment. I think that's important to acknowledge. But for the men out there that I guess are wanting tips, from my experience, I think there is something about, going back to that lost art of dating. I'm not saying that you have to spend a lot of money or plan an elaborate date, but I think, the coffee date gets so boring. And, I think it's more important to, if you have something in common with somebody, like some of my best dates, I went golfing with somebody. So you're outside,
Mm.
you're in the fresh air, you're doing something that, I'm not recommending that you go off hiking in the woods with some guy that you've never met before, but something that just has a bit of creativity that is not going out for a coffee or going out for a beer. I think just that. And again, I think it's important that you're just honest and authentic, because that's really what's the most important thing. But I guess the most important thing is, if you don't love yourself, it's really hard for somebody else to fall in love with you. And so if there's men out there that are thinking they're not worth it, maybe that's the piece they start at, whether it's the EFT or getting some therapy, because if you know that you're a good catch, then somebody else is going to see that.
Right. When did you know you were ready?
I think
Was it like a moment, or was it something that you had worked up to over time and you just said, "Oh, okay, now I think I'm ready to do this"?
I think there was maybe a couple moments. One is a friend that was sort of watching this journey from the outside and thinking I was crazy. I do remember her sort of asking about the midpoint, like, what does this mean now that you've, gone on this many dates? And at that moment, I realized the men were only a small piece of this journey. Really, it was a journey about dating myself and figuring out who I was. But then, and this is kind of serendipitous, I guess, that same friend invited me to go on a trip with her to Maui, and it was the anniversary of my first date where I'd been crying in the car. And there we are on the beautiful beach in Maui. And she said, okay, like, now what does this mean? And I said, well, I think I've done the work. I think I'm ready. I think that I now know what I'm looking for. And I think that was the pivotal moment because, well, we won't give all the spoiler alerts, but the story ends shortly
Right.
after.
Read the book.
Read the book.
Did anybody know besides you that you actually had this challenge, like just you and a friend, or did you tell the guys, hey, listen, you're number 22, and I got to get to 50?
Yes and no. So
Yes and no?
that's true because definitely if when you're on dates, sometimes people say, oh, like, how long have you been doing this? Or, and I would say, I might not have said that my goal was to date 50 men, but I would say truthfully, you're date number 22 and I'm on a journey. And so I tried to be as honest and transparent as possible.
Okay, because I think if I'm like number 11, and I had an idea that okay, this is gonna be 50, I might want to come back. I'd like, can we reschedule this till I'm ready around 50, 51? Now, you got some more questions, brother?
Yeah. I want to know, on your journey, like the person that you were in the beginning of your journey, right? You said you think you changed, right? By the time you got to number 50 or 52, right? Did what you want from a person change during that whole process? Because you had an opportunity to talk to different guys and saw what they offered, right? And so can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure if it changed completely, but I had clarity because after meeting a lot of men
Clarity
that,
is
for
important.
example, that had never been married or had never had children, I did realize, okay, that probably is not going to work. If I want somebody who can relate to me and the fact that I have children, I'm probably better suited dating somebody who has been married and has children. As
Right.
for like employment status, that didn't matter to me. I'll be honest. I after dating a few people that in Calgary, you need to have a car. You don't have good transit service. So I realized that I probably wanted somebody that had a car, but that was probably the only material thing that came up, I think, during that challenge. Definitely a person that had a good relationship. They didn't have to get along with their ex, but I didn't want somebody who had a lot of hate or disparaging things to say
Right.
about their ex, because that to me just thought, well, what does that mean? Maybe there's some unresolved issues there.
Right. Were there any physical requirements that you had for the gentleman?
Physical?
Height requirements? Yeah. A lot of guys worry about that.
Yes,
I was pretty
back.
open, so I didn't have a height requirement. They didn't. And again, if you looked at my profile pictures, I had 20 pounds to lose. So I didn't, they didn't have to have the six pack. They didn't have to be 6 feet tall. They just had to, be somewhat, I'm not even going to say health conscious. I was pretty willing to give someone a chance to see how they showed up in person.
Okay.
Cindy, I saw in a
good answer.
Cindy, I saw in a previous interview you mentioned that you wanted a guy that had 3 suits. I thought that was very funny. Can you?
That's
it is good.
But
can you explain why that's
Every
important?
guy should have 3
we
suits.
try to explain to guys dude, you have to have an arsenal. You got to be able to go anywhere. So tell us why a man having 3 suits would be important for you.
That was a little bit of a sassy comment, but you picked up on that. But what I meant by that is, if there's the guy that just has the one suit in his closet that he hasn't worn since his grandma's funeral in 2002, that could be a challenge. For me, right? I'm not saying that I get dressed up every weekend, but I wanted somebody that knew how to dress nicely, and let's, it didn't have to be a suit, but a couple nice shirts with some ties is what I was meaning.
Okay, I got you. No, listen, we agree.
No, three suits is exactly right.
No.
At a minimum.
Perfect.
You're talking to a guy that Nas has probably got like 30 suits. You know?
I have plenty of suits. I'll lend him a couple.
So, on your book, let me ask you this question, Cindy. What should men learn from this book? Like, whenever I see you talking or I see anything you've written, it's mostly for women, right? It's to inspire women, and it does, because everybody that I've seen, all the notes that I've taken, you really have inspired a lot of women to change and to do things differently. But what is this book? What should it teach men?
The same lessons apply to men, and I'm repeating myself, but A, it's important that you love yourself. B, it's important that you step out of your comfort zone. If you are just at home hiding behind your computer or sitting in the basement, you are not going to find someone to spend the rest of your life with. And I think the third thing is you need a tribe. You need to have those people, and not the ones that put you down, but the ones that celebrate your successes and will keep you accountable. So I think those are the three things: self-love, resilience to be able to step out of your comfort zone, and someone that'll give you some accountability.
Wow.
I love
Thanks,
that.
Cindy. So I guess I gotta find me some new friends.
And
yeah. Speaking of tribe, Cindy, listen, you do something special with women, right? Can you tell us about WOW, please?
Thank you. So I don't know what I was thinking when I created this event, because the first WOW event happened within the first 14 weeks of me going through this terrible chapter. But I think it was a distraction. It was meant to be a distraction to keep me focused on something positive in a not great moment. And so it's a weekend where I bring, the first year it was 65 women out in the heart of the Rocky Mountains in close to Banff, Alberta. And that event has grown to be as many as 160 women. And it's just,
nice.
It's kind of a love fest. It's women and wine and karaoke, but also a number of great sessions on truly anything from acupuncture to Zumba.
Wow. Okay. Now what does WOW stand for? If people don't know, what does WOW stand for?
Pretty awesome.
It stands for Women Only Weekend.
Okay.
But some people have referred to it as Women on Wine.
Women on. Yeah, that's probably a little bit more accurate.
Like it.
Huh? And when is that event? Anyway, is it once a year? Is it semi-annually?
Once a year, always in October. This year, we will be out there October 21st and 22nd.
Okay.
What is your process for allowing people to join? Is it just if you just want to contact you, and because we may have some women that want to be a part of your tribe?
That would be amazing. You can find all the information for registration on my website at cindydrummond.ca. That would be amazing.
Okay. We have another friend in Calgary, our life coach, Miss Christy.
Oh yes.
So
yes.
We're definitely that's definitely on one of our destinations. What's happening in your future? Like, what's going to happen for you? What are you planning on for the next, say, couple of years? Like, you've accomplished a lot. You've written a great book. You've organized, a great organization for women. What's next?
Well, I was thinking of retiring in Palm Springs, but that's probably 10 years away.
Okay.
Honestly, I think when we were in the middle of the pandemic, I was doing a Sundays Zoom meeting called Words of Wisdom, where, again, just bringing people together. I think that's my mission. I think what came out of all of this is that my I guess goal or my legacy is to bring people together, and it has been mostly women, but again, the tribe can always hold some men. And I just think that, as a community, and especially when things have been uncertain and kind of scary over the last few years, I think it's just really important that we remember that humans need connection. however you feel safe to do so. But if it's not in person, then it definitely needs to be over the computer or however you can do that, because we're not meant to isolate. We're not meant to be alone.
Absolutely.
And
no man is an island entire of himself.
You're right.
Says a great
Any
poet.
other questions for Miss Cindy?
I would just say that I thank you for coming on here. You have great energy, great smile. Your story is awesome, and I think that people who are going through things are going to be able to look at your story, look at where you've come, and look at that you didn't just let it. Something beautiful grew out of what started out as something bad, right? Now you're a giver, you're a healer. You want to help other people who might be going through something, who might not be talking about it. And I think that's pretty awesome. So I feel privileged to have you on Mass Show. We can brag now that we had you on the show.
That's right.
So I just want to say thank you for that.
And you know, we don't want to spoil it or anything, but it does have a happy ending, right? The book does have a happy ending.
Yes. Absolutely, it does.
Miss Cindy, thank you so much for coming out. Listen, if there's anything we could ever do for you, if you ever want to get any kind of word out, if you ever do anything for men, let us know. We're here. We're here.
That's right.
Absolutely.
It's been an absolute honor, and I want to offer. So I think we've talked about, reaching out and having the courage to do so and ask for help. If any of your listeners, any of your audience, if they have questions, they can call me, they can email me. I'll give them whatever advice they think is helpful. I would love to be of service to anybody that needs my help.
All right. Thank you very much, Cindy, for spending some time with us. And, hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Hope so.
Yep.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.